Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Campus Sustainability Month here, hosted by Texas A&M. Happy to have you join us today. Today, we're going to be hearing from Savannah and Jenna, and they're going to be talking to us about the concept of greenwashing. So it's kind of looking at the way that companies talk about, possibly like going green or how they're marketing things and how sometimes when they're doing that, they're not actually being, I guess, straightforward and honest with what they're actually doing. So they're maybe trying to get the benefits of marketing as green, but maybe not actually following through on the actions. So we'll learn a lot more about that today. It should be really, really interesting talk. So just before we get to that, I have a few ground rules I just have to go over like normal. So first, if you want to put your computer, your Zoom in side-by-side mode, it'll be the best way to view the presentation. I'm about to enable the live transcript now. So let me just do that for you. So the live transcript is now enabled. If you would like to view that way, please feel free to do that. And then also, please ask questions in the chat. That'll be a great way for us to have a conversation at the end. And I don't have to think of the questions, so it'll help me out too. And this is going to be recorded. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can check it out after the fact. And you may be here for prizes. So, I think hopefully you're here for the education and the knowledge, but prizes are also a cool bonus. So we're going to have code words. Every code word you collect is going to be worth 1 point, and you can use that for one entry into a random draw giveaway. And the code words will be written on a PowerPoint slide. They'll be spoken or they'll be written in the chat. And you just keep track of your code words, send them all in one email to sustainability@tamu.edu. They're due on Halloween. So that's when they'll be due, 11:59 on Halloween. Kind of spooky. And then also you're going to collect, you can get up to 5 points when you watch live. If you watch recording, you'll get one code word. And also you can double dip in Maroon Base. You can actually earn cash. This is a campus, it's a whole campus app that you can download. So you can check that out. You can find our event and get credit for it there. And if you want the complete prize rules, they're all listed here on the webpage. I guess I need to get to the prizes. I almost forgot. So here's the prizes. You can win 2 grand prizes. You get to choose between a Yeti cooler or a GoPro Hero 8. So I think those are both really exciting. And then we have 2 runner-up prizes. You can get a Patagonia quarter zip pullover, so you can look real fashionable and warm. It'll be cold soon enough, right? And then also you can just for participating, you can get a water bottle, for an office water bottle. 2 code words will get you that. 3 code words will get you a really cool vintage T-shirt. And if you collect 5 code words, you can get both. And you can't have code words from the same event for those final prizes, just because you'd only have to go to 1. So we want to make sure we incentivize people to go to a lot. So with that, that'll be it for me. And Jenna and Savannah are going to take it away whenever you ladies are ready.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben, for that introduction. I'm just going to share my screen really quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, awesome. Well, howdy, everyone, and welcome to our Campus Sustainability Month talk, Is Greenwashing an Ethical Approach to Marketing? I know we're really excited to be here and to kind of talk about the phenomenon of greenwashing. I know both myself and Jenna are really passionate about just trying to be environmentally ethical consumers and trying to make the right decisions for ourselves when buying products. But before we get going, we're just gonna kind of quickly introduce ourselves, kind of tell you our majors and just what we're interested in. My name is Savannah Bogard. I'm currently a senior here. I'm an environmental studies major, and I have a track in environmental policy and regulation, as well as a minor in geography.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Jenna Beyer, and I'm a junior environmental geosciences major. Both Savannah and I are currently outreach specialist interns at Texas A&M's Office of Sustainability.
All right, so today we are going to just start with talking about something called the 7 sins of greenwashing, or 7 deadly sins. I know it sounds kind of ominous, but I promise it's not. After that, we'll give you some kind of real world cases of greenwashing. Some tips and tricks to recognize and avoid greenwashing in your everyday life. And then in the end, we are going to have a quick Q&A session. So at that point, if you have any questions, you can definitely type them in the chat, or also kind of unmute yourself at that point and ask those questions out loud. So throughout our presentation, if you have any questions, just make sure to note those down, and we can definitely have a conversation at the end. But before we get going with those 7 deadly sins, we realize we've kind of been throwing around this term greenwashing a lot, and you may not know exactly what that is. So in our research around this topic, we found that there's definitely isn't a standard definition of greenwashing, and people have different ways that they kind of define and clarify this phenomenon. But just to generally sum it up in our own words, how most people would describe greenwashing is the action of misleading consumers or stakeholders about products that are marketed to be green or marketed to be environmentally friendly, but are not, or are not quite to the extent that they advertising. And that can really be frustrating as a person who's trying to make decisions about buying a product based on environmental aspects. It can be a very confusing and frustrating thing.
So now that Savannah has kind of explained what the general concept of greenwashing is, we're going to begin by talking about the 7 sins of greenwashing. In 2007, a company called TerraChoice did a study about environmental claims made about products on store shelves. From the study, they produced something called the 7 sins of greenwashing, which is a list of common pitfalls products make in green advertising. So the first of our 7 sins that we're going to be talking about today is the sin of the hidden trade-off. This is when companies make a claim about a product that is environmentally friendly, but off of a very narrow set of information. This happens a lot in the automobile industry. For example, companies may say, our car is more environmentally friendly because it gets 25 miles per gallon. However, it is not actually. This very specific narrow claim ignores the overarching environmental problem about how cars in general are not environmentally friendly because they emit a lot of greenhouse gases.
The second sin is the sin of no proof. And this happens when an environmental claim is made by a company about a product, and that claim is not supported, or the data that proves that claim isn't easily accessible. So maybe someone says something, you look online and you can't necessarily find information about that. Just for an example, I know a lot of companies make claims about recycling their waste products or recycling a certain percentage of their waste products. The sin of no proof would happen if you couldn't actually find any proof or data to support that fact.
So the next sin is the sin of vagueness, and this happens when a company makes a claim that is too poorly defined or broad. This is a very common occurrence with products that claim they're quote unquote all natural. The term all natural is very ambiguous and subjective based on personal opinion, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't harmful to the environment.
The next sin is the sin of worshiping false labels. And this is when a product gives the impression of having an endorsement by a reputable third party. This can include having misleading labels or labels that don't accurately reflect the product in the way that they are meant or portrayed to. This slide in particular includes some examples of misleading labels without proper credentials versus reputable certifications. If you look closely, the kind of labels on the left look very, very similar or include similar words to those reputable certifications on the left. So again, a lot of these misleading labels use similar formatting or similar kind of key buzzwords to those reputable certifications.
Then we have the sin of irrelevance, and this is when an environmental claim is made, but that may be truthful, but it is unimportant or unhelpful. This can be distracting to the actual environmental impact of a product, as the company chooses to make irrelevant claims about the product in order to avoid addressing the actual issues associated with it.
Okay, the next is the sin of the lesser of two evils. And this is a claim that could be true about a product, but ignores the environmental impacts of the category as a whole. This is also a really common sin in the automobile industry.
And lastly, we have the sin of fibbing. And this form of greenwashing includes outright lying to the consumer about the environmental impact of the product. And we will explore a big example of this in our real world examples of greenwashing.
All right, but now we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We have a quick word from our sponsors. Introducing natural spring water, ethically sourced from the Savannah Springs.
You know, I actually visited Savannah Springs once.
Really, Jenna? Where exactly is that?
What?
Where is the Savannah Springs?
Oh, it's like, you know, I mean, you know where it is. Anyway, our bottles are actually certifiably recyclable. And did you know they're also certifiably green and have certifiable plastic?
Wow, I didn't know that. Jenna, why don't you tell our guests how we get these highly certifiable certifications?
No can do, Savannah. These processes are highly secretive. Can't have the competition knowing.
I forgot about that NDA that we signed. Well, Savannah Springs Natural Water Company also really cares about what's happening in the world's rainforest, and we want to encourage you to care too.
Right, you're so right, Savannah. We love the rainforest. That about wraps up our commercial break. Make sure to buy natural spring water and support the beautiful Savannah Springs. Okay, so that was obviously a fake product, but we wanted to have kind of a quick discussion about the greenwashing strategies that we used.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of go to a list of our 7 sins. In the chat, or just you can quickly say out loud, did anyone kind of recognize any of the 7 sins in our little commercial break fake ad?
I noticed the sin of vagueness.
Absolutely, yes. So we were very kind of dicey there. We did not explain really anything about our product or anything about how our product is environmentally green. We also had the sin of no proof. We said that we had a lot of certifications, but you couldn't necessarily go see what those certifications were.
Someone said false labels.
Absolutely. So we just kind of made all of those up personally ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of real companies do that. They kind of make up certifications, or they put certifications on their products that are not necessarily reputable.
I feel like there was some fibbing going on too.
Yes, there was definitely some fibbing. We made up Savannah Springs. We just combined our names, Savannah and Jenna. So that was a completely false place. We played on that by not really knowing where it was at. So we definitely outright lied about most of the things that we said.
Did you have is there any other sins we missed?
One of the really big ones that I noticed is that we did the sin of irrelevance. So I threw in a random fact about the rainforest. I don't know if anyone caught that, but it really has nothing to do with our fake water bottle company or where our water comes from. And we kind of put it on the consumer as well. We were like, hey, we care about the rainforest and you should care about it too. So definitely we kind of threw in a straw man distractor environmental claim. Is there anything else that anyone wants to add that they kind of noticed that was off about our ad? One of the big things I also noticed with greenwashing products is that they're literally green. They use a lot of green kind of colors, and it makes it seem like they're environmentally friendly when they may not be.
Right, as well as like our name, natural, putting recycling symbols all over the ad. It just makes us have the guise that we're eco-friendly, but we aren't at all.
Okay, well, we are going to kind of move on to discuss some real life examples of greenwashing. We kind of wanted to include some of these cases in our presentation just so everyone could understand kind of how companies utilize greenwashing and how it has real life implications.
So one of the most famous examples of greenwashing in real life is with the popular car company Volkswagen. Volkswagen actually implemented software in their vehicles that allowed them to detect when an emissions test was being run in order to maintain lower engine power during that test. So although their emissions test came back clean for their vehicles, they were actually emitting 40 times the allowable amount of nitrous oxide. This is a huge example of the sin of fibbing and outright lying to the consumers. And with that being said, our first code word is fibbing.
Yeah, another example of greenwashing is from IKEA, the popular furniture, kind of fast furniture company. IKEA is actually known for being a very sustainable company or advertising themselves to be a very sustainable company. We personally went on their website and they have this huge kind of list of environmental goals that they have and how they sustainably source their products and use LED lights to save energy. And especially on their website, there was this quote that really stood out. They have a very strong focus on increased usage of sustainable materials. However, this past summer, it was all over the news that IKEA was linked to an illegal logging scheme in Russia. So just in that particular case, their wood may not have been as sustainably sourced. This is another example of the sin of fibbing. And also another example of how maybe companies do things that are environmentally sustainable and environmentally friendly, but just in a particular case, something may happen that is kind of contributes to greenwashing. So we're gonna move on to the next slide.
So essentially, greenwashing has many negative effects, but essentially greenwashing creates distrust between the product and the company and the consumer. Many individuals value making eco-friendly decisions in their daily lives, and greenwashing techniques inadvertently take the opportunity of an informed decision away from these consumers.
All right, so we have another commercial break for you. Surprise, we have another sponsor. Our second sponsor is Green City Bottles.
They're a certified Green America business, a certified B Corporation, and donate 1% of their gross sales to environmental charities.
You can go to their website, greencitybottles.com, to find more about their product, as well as to see what these certifications mean and exactly how Green City Bottles receive them.
The Green America certification ensures that Green City Bottles is proactively pursuing positive social change for their employees and the community.
And the B Corporation certification certifies that Green City Bottles is meeting high standards in terms of sustainability and employment methods.
And finally, using a Green City reusable bottles instead of plastic bottles helps reduce plastic waste in your own personal life.
So support our generous sponsors, Green City Bottles.
Okay, well, that was obviously another fake commercial, but what did y'all notice that was different about this ad compared to the last one?
I don't think those were fake certifications, were they?
Yes, they were actual real certifications this time.
That's what I'm seeing in the chat.
Right, and somebody said we gave ways to find proof of these certifications, which kind of ties into how our last ad used the sin of no proof. We gave a website, we listed a website that consumers could use to go and find out the actual credentials behind our certifications.
Awesome, y'all.
Was there anything else that we should have noticed?
I think that was pretty much it. We use real certifications and we gave you a place to kind of find out more and find out exactly how we got those certifications.
Right.
All right. Now we're going to move on to discuss some tips for avoiding and recognizing greenwashing. We definitely have talked about some like huge dramatic instances of greenwashing, but I know personally when I go to the store, it can be hard to actually identify if products are greenwashed or environmentally friendly. And it's especially hard if you're balling in a budget. I know I'm a college student, and sometimes the products that you know are sustainable are going to be a little bit more expensive. And also, if you're just going to the store really quick, you might not have time to research. But we hope that these kind of like laying out these 7 sins will make it a little bit easier to possibly identify kind of strategies that companies have used and see what products are greenwashed and what products may not be greenwashed. And Jenna's going to move on to just talk about kind of one product, it's shampoo, that there's a greenwash versus a sustainable shampoo.
Right. So as Savannah said, we're all consumers, we all have budgets. And I know I myself have actually used this OGX greenwash shampoo for many years before I researched on this topic. But the OGX shampoo is actually a great example of a greenwash product. So as you can see, some of the words listed on the bottle, they have argan oil of Morocco, unique precious blend of argan oil. They have this OGX, which is kind of short for organics name, and they have kind of a green leaf going through the X that kind of gives it the disguise of being eco-friendly. They also list on their website that they're a cruelty-free product, but they're not certified cruelty-free, and actually might use testing on animals from a third-party source. And not all of their products are silicone-free or colorant-free. In comparison, we have Ethic, which is a cruelty-free vegan brand that does not contain palm oil, is ethically sourced and climate positive. They actually mentioned that they use all renewable energy in all of their offices and make attempts to completely reduce their carbon footprint in their production.
Awesome. So we just wanted to end our presentation just kind of talking about our personal tips for how to avoid greenwashing and what we do to kind of try to buy environmentally friendly products. So the first thing that you can do, kind of the most obvious thing, is to just research your products before you go and buy them. Go on their website, see if they have certifications, if they're good certifications, if they're reputable certifications. That way you can know for sure that they are being environmentally friendly.
Right, and kind of like along those same lines, many companies have sustainability reports and goals on their website, and you can kind of check these for the sin of vagueness or the sin of no proof. Make sure that they're backing up their claims and that they're making clear claims about what they're doing to become more sustainable as a company.
And our last tip is actually to support small and local businesses, which might not sound like such an obvious thing, but however, when you support small businesses, it's easier to tell kind of where they're getting their inputs from, where they're getting their products from, and exactly what they're doing. And you can go talk to them, kind of see what's up and how they're producing their product. Whereas with a larger company, there's many different sectors. You know, it might be that one place, maybe one factory is doing the things that they say that they're doing, but another place isn't. The IKEA example was a good example of that. I probably think that IKEA in general, there's a lot of environmentally friendly things that they're doing, but just in that particular case, there was something that where they weren't getting their products, their wood from a sustainable source. So definitely support small and local businesses. All right. Well, that was the end of our presentation. I hope y'all learned something new. At this point, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also type it in the chat, and we would be very happy to answer this for you.
Great job, ladies. It was really good, really entertaining. I gotta tell you, I was like legitimately laughing out loud during your commercials. I mean, it was really funny. Thought that was great. So my first question is gonna I'm just a little curious about the commercials. Like, could you just talk a little bit about the process, like the creative process behind that?
Yeah, so me and Savannah, we actually wanted to create like kind of like SNL has those fake ads or commercials type things. So that's kind of what we based it on. And we noticed we kind of just wanted to way over exaggerate greenwashing and provide kind of like a memorable way to memorize like the 7 sins. And we thought it would be kind of like a bit of comic relief. And Savannah and I are really funny, of course. So we kind of just went back and forth on it to make like a little comic relief section over this kind of like more hard-hitting topic.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of it was also based on personal experience. I know, like, I've looked at something, like I've looked at an ad or I've looked at a company's website and been like, this is greenwash. Like I know just from looking at this and just from hearing what they're saying that the claims that they're making are probably not true.
Did you guys kind of like, how did you work on your dialogue? Did you just kind of like write lines and bounce it off of each other? How did that go?
Yeah, I think we just kind of wrote lines together. We tried to make it as dramatic as possible. So Savannah today was kind of like, we should definitely include something about how we love the rainforest just out of the blue. And I was like, yes, we love the rainforest because that's kind of like one of the more known examples of being eco-friendly, like support the rainforest, even though it had nothing to do with our product in any way.
Well, cool. I mean, I know a lot of companies are looking for people to greenwash their products. I mean, you guys could do it for them. I mean, if you want.
We might be experts at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, that was really good. Maybe y'all like have a feature in a writer's room at some point. I thought that was great. And just a good example of the interplay and just the way that y'all practice with each other. So I thought that was really cool. Does anyone have any like actual questions outside of that one that are, maybe a bit more serious questions? I guess one question I kind of have is like, we're talking about IKEA. We know that they're doing some things environmentally friendly and some things not. I think in the world of sustainability, it's very hard to be like 100% like green or sustainable, whatever term you want to use, right? There's always like trade-offs. So it's like, it may be difficult for us to expect a company is always perfect in everything that they're doing, but how can we, like, I guess, make sure we're choosing good companies? Like, maybe we can't expect perfection, but, is there a way to, like, I guess, be able to know if there's, what are the things that companies can do that we know it's like a worthwhile company to kind of purchase things from?
One thing I would kind of emphasize is transparency. So IKEA has this kind of guise of being very sustainable. It's all over their website. They have all kinds of sustainability reports and goals, but they weren't transparent about the processes that they were taking. As you said, it's hard in today's world to be 100% sustainable, to be 100% eco-friendly. But what I would kind of expect from companies is for them to be transparent about how they can get better and what exactly they're doing to kind of reach those goals.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, if companies do make mistakes or they are sourcing from a place that they find out later, like, hey, that's not exactly what we wanted, or that doesn't necessarily support our goals, to change that, to actually make a change and say like, hey, like, we made this mistake, like we're making these claims and we're working to like support these claims and actually follow through.
So it kind of sounds like we shouldn't expect like perfection from companies. It's maybe too much to expect, but it's like the transparency, the honesty, admitting mistakes and working on solutions is what we're really looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also talked a lot about this actually when we were doing this presentation. And also another thing is like it's hard to expect perfection from yourself as well, because I know I've caught myself a lot of the times buying things and going back and being like, hey, this is probably not the best product for me to be buying, or I'm buying from this place that's using this source and I don't actually support that. And especially when you are a college student, or maybe you're just like not really into like researching the products. I know I'm not a planner, so like a lot of times when I need something, I'm walking in the store and I'm just grabbing it like the first thing that I see. So with companies, and also just like as personally as a consumer.
Right. Me and Savannah kind of wanted to emphasize that we're definitely not perfect ourselves. And I feel like companies and consumers are kind of learning along with each other, because like you said, it's very hard to be 100% sustainable, but that is the goal that many companies are trying to reach right now. And so with consumers, it's kind of the same, as this topic has become a lot more widely discussed in media. A lot of consumers are trying to make more educated choices, and this is kind of a process for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too about what you said about how you can't expect to be perfect yourself as well, or to, I guess, feel guilty if maybe you couldn't afford the thing that was more expensive. I think everybody has different abilities to pay for things and whatnot, and there's always different ways to be sustainable. Sometimes it's just avoiding something that you don't need. And then I think another thing too is like maybe you couldn't afford the most sustainable option or whatever, but the one that you chose, you use it as long as possible. So like I think there's different ways that you can be like a responsible consumer. But yeah, I think it's good advice. Don't expect 100% perfection. The next question I have is maybe you can't even answer this, but what's the worst of the 7 deadly sins of greenwashing, and why?
I would say fibbing. That's kind of because that's just outright lying to the consumer. And I was shocked by the Volkswagen example, that they would rather implement a whole software to fool emissions tests than just lowering their emissions. So personally, I think fibbing is the worst, because I mean, they're not even trying. They're not even trying at that point. They're just lying.
I totally agree. I think fibbing is the worst. And I also think a lot of people commit the other of the 6 sins without maybe necessarily meaning to. But that one is just like, if you just lie, then that's kind of not the most ethical thing to do as a company.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess like the last question I want to ask is, like, do companies sometimes make environmentally friendly products, but maybe like they still have like a really large, environmental footprint or carbon footprint or whatever? Is that something that also happens?
Yeah, so I mean, that was kind of an example with the OGX shampoo. They actually had like a sustainability report on their website where they listed all the things that they were working towards, sustainability wise, but overall, they weren't a very sustainable company. So I think it's definitely possible for there to be like two sides of the same coin. Companies can have reputable products, but in the overarching way, they can still not be sustainable in all their practices.
And I guess the last question that I would have then is, we're talking about companies as being sustainable, kind of thinking about green, and I think we're thinking more about environmentally friendly practices. Is there other ways for companies to be sustainable where we're not just focusing on the environment?
Absolutely. So I know like social sustainability is really big in companies producing things, because you want to make sure that the labor that companies are using are ethical. So if they're like not being humane in the way that they're treating their workers, or someone's using like child labor or something like that, then that's also kind of not sustainable.
Yes, kind of going off what Savannah said, when when we were researching the Green City bottles and kind of deciding on what certifications to provide with those bottles, every one of those certifications also had something to do with labor and employment methods. So I think that's a huge thing to watch out for as well.
Great, thank you. And then can I get some Savannah Springs water? I mean, where is this? It sounded so good. I was almost convinced. All right, but so like, let me just quickly talk about what we have coming up next. Thank you all for your time and for your participation. Hopefully you noticed I put the the code words in the chat already. Again, Savannah and Jenna, wonderful job, ladies. I learned a lot. Hopefully everybody else learned a lot too. But great job. So what we have next is this is the second to the last talk for this virtual sustainability month. Our last talk is going to be Wednesday at 4 p.m. and it's the economics of climate change. How much is it going to cost us? So another kind of way to look at sustainability through an economics lens. I think it should be really interesting. So we definitely hope to see you there. It'll be your final chance to collect 5 code words, to get that GoPro, to get that that Yeti. You got the more code words you get, the more chances you have. And then also, if you like Jenna and Savannah, like they did such a great job with this presentation. If you want to be in their position in the future, we have an internship program that they're a part of, and applications are going to open on November 8th and they'll close on November 22nd. We'll send a campus-wide email. They'll be on over our social media. Please apply to that. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your Friday. Again, Savannah and Jenna, thank you all. Great job. Very entertaining and informative. I hope you all have a great weekend. Bye, everybody.